Imagine life as a parrot, soaring through the sky without a care in the world, and keeping out of reach from dangerous mobs by living amongst the trees. However, imagine only having 3 hearts, and any damage done to you could mean the end of it all. Well, you don't need to imagine it anymore, because I spent 100 days as a parrot in hardcore Minecraft, and here's what happened. It was day 1, and obviously I was a parrot. So I decided to spend the day getting used to some normal parrot things. Firstly, I had a little fly around the place, and then for some reason, I tried to drown myself. Next, I gathered myself some wood, and then I realised parrots are actually really small. Like, if this crafting table fell over, it would easily crush me. I then made myself some basic tools, and after a bit more flying around, I spotted a chicken. And as most of you probably know, chickens and parrots don't get along too well. So I quickly ran up to the chicken and stabbed it in the face. Naughty chicken. Once I was done laying down the law, I realised that parrots can fit into tiny spaces. And this was pretty cool, so I had a little dance. Then later on in the day, I casually flew into this cave, and it turns out this creeper wasn't too happy with me being alive. But just before it managed to blow me up, I flew back out of the cave, and I was safe. By day 2, I was glad to still be alive, but I thought if I wanted it to stay that way, I should probably get some better tools. So I collected a bit of cobble and made some. Also, I thought being a parrot was pretty cool because I could live in tiny spaces like this. Once I thought I was ready, I headed back towards the cave, but this time it was guarded by a skeleton. I tried to sneak into the cave past the skeleton, but unfortunately the skeleton let off an arrow and I was almost instantly killed. That would have been pretty embarrassing if I died on day 2. After that close call, I thought it was time to protect myself a bit better. So I spent the remainder of the day trying to find some iron near the surface. Finally, by the end of the day, I'd managed to get myself 13 iron. So I set up a little furnace on top of this tree and started smelting it. The next morning, the iron was ready and I crafted myself a chest plate and a helmet. Hopefully this would help protect the few hearts I had. Once I was suited up, I started flying around the area. However, after a while of flying, I couldn't help but think a parrot doesn't really fit in here. So I thought to myself that I should probably try and find a jungle. Also, I thought it was quite funny how deep the snow was compared to me. Soon I started my search for a jungle, and on my adventure I flew past some coral, made friends with this giant turtle, and eventually after 2 days of searching, I found a jungle. The next morning I thought that if I was going to be living in the jungle, I should probably get a bed. So I got my axe ready and started murdering some sheep. Also, it was a pretty weird sight seeing a parrot killing animals. Once I had enough wool, I quickly spotted some chickens. And of course, they weren't allowed to live, so I quickly dealt with them. I then spent the rest of the day getting more food and also harvesting some trees. On the morning of day 7, it was raining. And obviously, because I'm a bird, I didn't really like the rain. So I crafted up some materials and got to work on building myself a little parrot house. Finally, by the end of the day, I had myself this cute little tree house. I spent the next day pacing up and down, well, more like flying up and down my base, trying to think of the 3 goals I could set myself for these 100 days. Finally, after a lot of thinking, I came up with my 3 goals, which were to build myself a better base, to get full diamond armor, and finally to kill the ender dragon. I would strongly recommend you watch all the way through the video to see if I can complete these goals, because I have no idea how I'm going to kill the ender dragon as a parrot. Anyway, I started out day 9 by cooking up some of my dead enemies. And then just as I left my house, this mean skeleton tried to kill me, and it was actually pretty close. Next, I decided to fly around the jungle a bit to get to know my home a bit better. And along the way, I found myself 2 pandas. So I decided to grab myself some bamboo and lead them all the way back to my base. But this turned out to be pretty annoying as the pandas were really dumb. However, finally, after a long struggle, I managed to get the pandas back to my base. And also, while I was feeding the pandas, this cow came along. I'm guessing he thought he was a panda too. Because I kept almost dying, I decided it was time to go mining for iron so I could get full armor. So I spent all of day 10 preparing for the mining trip by getting myself some torches, a better pickaxe, and some food. And then by day 11, it was time to go mining. Finally, after 4 days of mining, I'd managed to get quite a lot of stuff. And once I got back on day 15, I emptied out my inventory, and then I started smelting my iron. Finally, after a while of smelting, I gathered my iron and made myself some iron armor and tools. Now that I had a full set of iron armor, I tried to flex my gear, but then I realized I'm a parrot and you can't even see it. Because I didn't want to make the same mistake I made in the 1 block 100 days, I decided to spend all of day 16 flying around and finding sugarcane. This is so I could plant it and have enough paper in the future to make an enchanting table. Finally, by the end of the day, I'd managed to get quite a bit of sugarcane. On day 17, I thought I should probably go test my armor on some mobs to see how much damage I could take. But before I left, I decided to make a shield as well in case I got into a sticky situation. Quickly, I found myself a creeper and a zombie, and successfully I protected myself from the creeper with my shield, but somehow the zombie got thrown into the air and landed behind me. Then he smacked me with his shovel and I was almost instantly killed. I definitely needed to be more careful. Then later that day, after a bit of exploring, I found myself this cute little parrot friend. Because I knew I'd need a lot of wood for my future base, I decided to spend all of day 18 to 22 chopping down trees. And finally, after I'd used up all of my axes, I'd managed to get quite a lot of wood. And also, I'd deforested quite a big area. On day 23, I decided to have a bit of a break from collecting materials. So I decided to start exploring my area some more. Firstly, I found myself this abandoned portal, and inside it had some pretty decent loot. Then, after a bit more exploring, I spotted some more enemy chickens. So I flew over to them and stabbed them with my sword. And obviously, chickens dying made me very happy. Also later on in the day, I found myself my first village. I quickly swooped down and stole the villagers' hay. Also, I don't think the villagers had seen a talking parrot before because they seemed pretty confused. Then, after getting a little bit scared by this cat, I started flying back home. I started out day 24 by cooking up some food that I'd got in the previous day. Then, while I was waiting for the food to cook, I decided to breed my pandas. And these fake pandas must have got pretty jealous because they wanted feeding as well. Then later on in the day, this angry panda stared me down. This was actually pretty scary because I was just a little parrot. The next morning, I thought I should probably start clearing an area so I could build my new base. So I spent all of day 25 chopping down trees. Then on day 26, I cleared out some leaves with my trusty hoe. Also that night, I caught this skeleton and zombie having a little fight. Eventually, the skeleton came out on top, so I rewarded him with a stab in the face. Finally, I spent day 27 collecting some bamboo and planting it around my area. However, while I was trying to do this, I was attacked by a pack of angry skeletons. But luckily, I managed to escape and soon I was safe back at home. By day 28, I was getting closer to building my base. I already had all the spruce and cobble I would need, but I also wanted some oak wood so that I could build my base. So I set out in the search of an oak forest. Finally, after a day of searching, I managed to find what I was looking for. I quickly landed and got to work on chopping down some trees. Finally, after 2 days of chopping, I'd managed to get myself quite a bit of wood. Once I got back home on day 31, I grabbed my wheat and went to breed my cows. But then I realized if I wanted more cows in the future, I would need some more wheat. So I spent the day collecting seeds and dirt ready to make a wheat farm. By day 32, I was ready to build the farm. So I cleared out the area and started hoeing the ground. However, because I'd been so hard at work, I'd forgotten to sleep, which meant 2 angry phantoms spawned ready to kill me. I quickly flew up into the sky and our aerial battle commenced. Luckily, I was able to dodge their attacks, and soon they were both dead. Finally, by day 33, the wheat farm was finished. So I grabbed my seeds and started planting. The next morning, I thought it was time to do something I'd been putting off for a while, which was to actually start building my base. So I gathered all my resources and I got to work. Finally, after quite a few days of building, I had a good start to my base. but because I wasn't fully happy with it, I decided not to tick that goal off my list. By day 39, it was getting pretty lonely in my new base, so I decided to collect up some seeds and go out in the search for some friends. Finally, after a while of searching through the jungle, I managed to find my first friend, which was this cute blue parrot. Then after a bit more exploring, I managed to find 3 more parrot friends. I then spent the next day leading my new companions back to my base, and by the time I got back, I had a nice little group of friends. The next morning, I was pretty bored, so I decided to spend the day relaxing by hunting down and killing any chickens I could find. And my adventure to kill chickens went pretty far, because along the way I was finding some really cool landscapes. Also, just before this day ends, I'd like to point out how much bigger a bee is than a parrot. I have no idea what Mojang were thinking. Because I'd ventured so far out to kill chickens, by day 42 I was lost. So I had to spend the whole day finding my way back home. Along the way I found another nether portal, and also probably the world's smallest village. However, finally, after a lot of searching, I managed to find my base again. The next morning I thought I should probably start making a cow pen, because to make a full enchanting table I would need a lot of leather. So I quickly got to work harvesting up some wheat, but while I was doing this sneaky creeper crept up on me. That was pretty close. Then once the creeper was dealt with, I went out in the search of all of the nearby cows. And after a bit of rounding up the cows, I had a small herd following me. Also, once again, it was pretty funny seeing a parrot leading cows around. Now that we had the cows, I needed to make a place where they could live. So I spent all of day 44 clearing an area and making their pen. Then by the end of the day, I managed to get all of the cows into their new home. But they all seemed really confused why I was calling them cows, because I think they all still thought they were pandas. By day 45, it was time to tackle my second goal, which was to get full diamond armor. So I quickly made a load of iron pickaxes, and then I started digging myself a mine. Finally, after quite a lot of digging, I had reached diamond level. So quickly I grabbed my iron pickaxe and started strip mining. Also, it was a lot cooler mining as a parrot because I could dig 1 block wide tunnels. However, as I was digging my tunnel, I almost ran straight into lava. And because I only had 3 hearts, that definitely wouldn't have been good. After spending a day getting my bearings mining as a parrot, I decided to spend the next 4 days mining for diamonds. Even though I didn't have the best of luck, I still managed to get myself quite a few diamonds. And finally, by the time my final pickaxe broke, I managed to get myself 19. On day 50, I quickly rushed home to make myself my first pieces of diamond armor. I eagerly slapped my brand new armor on, and then I flexed my... Oh, wait a second. And then I flexed my brand new diamond armor. On day 51, I went to go check on my parrot friends, and they all seemed pretty bored. So I decided to spend the day collecting materials to make them a new base, which hopefully would keep them a bit more entertained. And by day 52, I'd planned out the area for their new home. I quickly got to work building a nice glass enclosure, and then I filled the inside with tons of plants to help the parrots feel more at home. The next morning, it was time to move the parrots into their new enclosure. Once they were in, I decided to spend the day playing with them to help them get used to it. And by the end of the day, they seemed to really like it. By day 54, I thought it was time to go exploring again. On my travels this time, I found a panda that thought it was a cow, and also some magical floating grass. Also finally, I found myself a jungle temple. I quickly rushed inside to explore, and suddenly I felt like the parrot version of Indiana Jones dodging the arrow traps. Then after a bit of messing with the levers, I uncovered the secret room, and my prize inside was a diamond. By day 55, I was fed up of the constant stream of mobs inside my base. So I decided to do something about it. I decided to spend the day planning out a wall which would hopefully keep the pesky mobs out. The next morning, the template was ready, so I collected myself some resources, and then I got to work. And finally, by day 60, the wall was complete. Then I decided to spend the rest of day 60 breeding my cows and also building some decorative rocks around my base. On day 61, I crafted up a load of lanterns and started lighting up my base. However, by the end of the day, I'd used almost all of my iron on the lanterns, and also my base still wasn't fully lit up. So the next day, I decided to kill 2 chickens with 1 stone by going mining for iron and diamonds. Finally, after 5 days of hard work down in the mines, I'd managed to get myself 27 more diamonds and tons of iron. The next morning, I quickly flew out of the mine and eagerly made my first set of full diamond armor. And this meant I could finally tick one of my goals off of my list. On day 68, I had myself a mischievous plan, but to complete this plan, I would need to find some chickens. So I flew out of my base and started searching for chickens. Soon enough, I had a small flock following me back to my base. Finally, after leading them quite a long way, I managed to get them all inside of this tiny pen. But for my plan to work, I would need a lot more chickens. So while I was waiting for the chickens to be able to breed, I decided to finish lighting up my base and also add in some extra decorations. And after a long day of work, my base was finally complete. Now that my base was finally finished, it meant I could tick off another one of my goals. By day 70, I had almost enough chickens to complete my plan. But there was one slight problem. I forgot that I would need some nether quartz to be able to do it. So instead, I spent the day preparing for the nether by crafting up some golden apples and collecting some obsidian. Then on day 72, I built my nether portal and headed into the nether. As soon as I spawned in, I had a quick look around to load in the area. Then I decided to spend the rest of day 72 collecting some nether quartz. From day 73 all the way to day 76, I was searching for the nether fortress. But for some reason, even though I could fly, I still couldn't find it. Also, throughout my search, I had a dogfight with this ghast, I explored all of the nether biomes, and also I found a bastion. But finally, after a really long search, there it was, the nether fortress. I quickly entered into the nether fortress and spent the next 2 days collecting nether warts, looting chests, and killing blazes. Finally, after a few close calls with death, I managed to get myself 11 blaze rods. By day 79, it was time to travel home again. But on my way back, I once again got a bit lost. However, eventually, after a while of searching, I managed to find the portal. On day 80, I emptied my inventory and crafted some resources ready for my evil contraption. And by day 81, the contraption was finished, and all that was left to do was get the chickens in. And yes, if you already guessed it, this machine is an automatic chicken killer. This meant I could sit back and relax with my parrot friends while the chickens burned. The next day, I wanted to try and give my parrots another gift. So I spent the next 2 nights trying to get music discs. And obviously, this was very dangerous business because it involved getting a skeleton to kill a creeper. However, finally, after almost dying a few times, I managed to get myself 4 discs. Then on day 84, I crafted myself a jukebox and had a rave with my parrots. Also, when I tried to fly with the music on, this very, let's say, interesting glitch happened. The next morning, I was going about my business when I realized I still didn't have enchants. So I quickly crafted and placed an enchanting table, and then spent the day murdering cows and collecting sugarcane. Then finally that night, I had a fully complete enchanting table. But the next morning, I thought it looked a little bland. So I decided to add some rocks around the outside, and this definitely made it look a lot better. Then once the enchanting table was decorated, I got to work on enchanting my gear. And after getting a bit extra XP, I had a full set of enchanted diamond armor. The next day, I decided to decorate the area around my nether portal, and then I realized that my base was getting a little cramped. So I decided to spend the rest of the day finally moving into the new tower that I made. On day 88, I headed out to try and find myself a horse. This is because I wanted to see what it would look like if a parrot was riding one. Eventually, after a while of searching, I found this nice white horse. And when I hopped on it, I was surprised to see that I just looked like a spot on the horse's back. Also, if you're wondering what the inside of a horse looked like, here it is. Then as soon as I got my horse back home, I hopped off and then it tried to eat me. Naughty horse. In the morning, I crafted myself some brewing stands, and then I spent the rest of the day making a cool brewing cave underneath my base. I would soon be fighting the dragon, so I decided to spend day 90 collecting apples so I could make some more golden ones. The next morning, I crafted up some more golden apples, but I had another problem. I'd run out of gold, so I decided to quickly head into the Nether to collect some more. However, while I was in the Nether, I managed to get so much gold that I had a lot spare. So I decided to use a lot of it to trade with piglins and hopefully get some ender pearls. And after trapping 3 piglins and doing a lot of trading, I managed to get myself 8 pearls. Once I got back to the overworld, I crafted myself a load more golden apples. Next, I wanted to get some wool for beds, which would hopefully help me kill the ender dragon. But before I left my base, I discovered this pit of pandas. And I'm guessing this was the cows doing, as they wanted to hide all the real pandas. Once I discovered the cow's secret, I headed out and started shearing some sheep. Also, while I was out my base, I spotted some pesky chickens, so obviously they had to die. Then I spent the next day preparing my inventory and brewing some potions ready to fight the ender dragon. And just before I left on my journey, all of my parrot friends threw me a nice leaving party. My inventory was ready and I'd said goodbye to all of my friends. Now all there was left to do was to find and kill the ender dragon. I spent the next 3 days scouring the endless landscapes in the hope of finding the stronghold. And along the way I was killing endermen so I would have enough eyes. After a while of searching, I knew the stronghold was close. I quickly started digging down and suddenly, there it was. I navigated the long and twisting corridors of the stronghold until I came across the portal. I placed my eyes of ender in one by one and suddenly the portal was lit. It was now day 100 and I took the plunge into the end. As soon as I spawned in, I quickly dug up to the surface. And there she was, the ender dragon. I made quick work of the end crystals by flying around and shooting them with my bow. And finally, the last one was gone. Now it was just me versus the dragon. I quickly drank up my strength potion and flew into battle. But before I could get any hits in, the dragon pushed me away. So I resorted to my bow and started damaging it from afar. Finally, the dragon landed on its perch and I did some good damage to it. But now that the dragon was low, I decided to end this battle in the skies.